Hi folks, this is video number 135. The title is My First 4 Days in Vietnam. This is a story about my first 4 days in Vietnam. I related a short blurb about one of these events in an email the other day. 3 of my friends replied that it sounded like a good video, so here it is. When we left McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey, it was March 3rd or 4th, and the temperature was 20 degrees. Next, we landed and refueled in San Francisco. It was about 65 degrees. En route, we landed and refueled in Hawaii. It was 4 a.m. and about 70 degrees. In Hawaii, we went to the bar in the terminal. I ordered a Coke. It came in a glass about 6 inches high and about 1.5 inches in diameter. It was full of ice and cost $4. Halfway between Hawaii and the Philippines, we hit a very large air pocket. We were flying at 42,000 feet when we encountered that air pocket. The plane dropped and fell flat for 30 seconds. All 212 on the plane became weightless and were slammed up and held against the baggage compartments. Finally, they got the plane under control. We were at 29,000 feet. The last stop before Vietnam was Guam. The temperature was about 85 degrees. The runway went right to the edge of the cliff at the island shore. When we left the runway, the plane dropped halfway to the surf. Well, there's some pretty big rocks down there. Apparently, that was a normal takeoff in a situation like that. Last stop, Benoit Air Base. That approach and landing was memorable. They gave us no warning about what they were about to do. Of course, they did a combat landing. There was no circling the airport and gradual glide slope to the runway. Nope. They just banked hard left, dropped 5,000 feet, leveled off, and landed. Of course, I was on the left side of the aisle and got to see the ground coming up at 600 miles an hour. When they opened the door, we were almost knocked down by the change. The temperature was 120. As I related in video 36, last on, first on, my friend Dane got diverted from Vietnam to Germany. Later that evening, nature called. I made an inquiry as to the location of a latrine. A rather large building was pointed out to me. It had 2 steps up and a large stoop. I wish I had a picture of the view I got when I opened the door. There were 2 rows of seats, 1 row on each side of the building. If I remember correctly, there was a sign that stated, "The world's largest latrine." It was essentially a 100-hole outhouse, 50 on each side. There were about 40 participants when I went in. Leave it to the Army engineers to build a record setter in that category. While we're on the topic, I'll pass on some other latrine experiences. Our hooch was about 20 yards from the EM Club, and there was a 4-hole latrine in that area. One night I was in there leaving a deposit. The door opened and in hopped one of the bar girls. She dropped her drawers and hopped up on the seat next to me. I don't remember her name, but what would you say? "Hi, Jane. How are you?" She just had to tinkle and jump down, pull up her pants, and went out the door and back to work. Sanitation was different. An outhouse usually has a big hole dug under it. Not in these cases. Under the seats were tubs created by cutting 55-gallon drums in half. On the back side of the buildings were doors along the bottom. Sometime during the day, a papa san or 2 or 3 would come along with their umbrellas and some jugs of kerosene. An umbrella is a 3-wheel motorcycle set up as a small pickup truck. They haul everything imaginable in those things. They would remove those tubs from the latrine, fill them with kerosene, and set them on fire. That smell hung in the air all day long. I read recently that the big beautiful city of Dubai has no sewer system. They build those skyscrapers without waste handling. There is a YouTube video showing, at a very minimum, 10 miles of back-to-back tractor-trailer tankers lined up along the road into the city every morning to pump out and haul away crap. Where they take it, I have no idea. Enough of that topic. Now I'll relate my processing in experience. While processing in our headquarters, no one had a pen to fill out the forms. I spied an empty desk and typewriter, so I sat down, put in the form, and filled it out. Unknown at the time, that action changed my total Vietnam experience. Instead of being assigned to A Company motor pool with my three friends, Greg, Bob, and Keith, I was assigned to headquarters as a clerk typist. All at once, my job became the ETS orders clerk. ETS stood for Estimated Time of Separation. Essentially, these were the orders with the date you were going home. For the first 4 nights, I slept in the headquarters transit hooch. There were 4 bunks, but I was the only occupant. I eventually moved in with the guys I was working with in headquarters. There were 10 of us in that hooch. I had a corner bunk. A corner is good. There have recently been large demonstrations in Hong Kong. The police were throwing tear gas balls into the crowd. The demonstrators have become wise. They are placing traffic cones over them. One guy had a gas mask on and scooped one up into a thermos and put on the lid. That put out the flame. He shook the thermos and poured out the powder. Next is the blurb I wrote in the email. Too bad we didn't have a thermos large enough to hold that 35-gallon barrel of tear gas set off in our compound at 2 a.m. Tear gas hugs the ground and builds up, displacing the air. When I woke up, I knew what it was, but it was so thick I could not see my hand in front of my face. The first sergeant was able to get to a phone, and 11th Aviation lowered a Huey down over us to force the gas out of the compound. I could reach up and touch the strut on the chopper while laying in the mud with the other 168 of our company. We were all in our underwear, in the mud, choking to death. We all survived my 4th night in country. March 1970. Well, for those of you who can see the pictures, I put a couple pictures here of my friends, Greg, Bob, and Keith. We were working on changing the head gasket on a D7 bulldozer. As always, friends, I wish everyone all the best.